Hello and welcome to Creative Sparkle. My name's Holly and today we're doing an art journal prompt list, so grab your art supplies and let's get crafting. Hello and thank you for joining me today. So feel free to prime your page if you're working in a recycled book, but as I'm not, I won't be, because the first prompt is going to be to apply texture or modelling paste to the page. So you can apply it however you wish. I decided to go with a stencil and I'm using this brick stencil that I have here. And I'm just going to be using some more normal white modelling paste. Obviously, if you want to use something that's clear or coloured, you can use whatever you have available to you. And you can just add it however you wish. So if you just want to get a palette knife or a card and do some texture instead of using a stencil, you can do that. I just decided to go with this stencil because it's been a while since I've used bricks and I thought it would look interesting. So I'll get that put on and then we'll move on to the next prompt. So once the paste is dried, we'll move on to prompt number 2, which is to cover your background in clear or white gesso. So I decided to go with white gesso on this occasion, and I did water it down just to make sure that it doesn't cover up the texture of those bricks. So I'm just adding that all over the page. If you wanted to use clear gesso because of whatever you have in the background, then you can do that. And just priming the page just to make sure that we have a porous surface to work on for later. Unfortunately, I did regret using white gesso later. I decided that I preferred I would have used clear, but that's not what I used, so unfortunately you'll see what I mean later. So the next prompt is prompt number 3, to spray up to 3 colours to cover the background up close. So I've chosen these 3 sprays and I'm going to be spraying them over the background. I thought it went well with the bricks. So the colours, once they are sprayed onto the page, all 3 of them, that I think the colours look absolutely gorgeous, and I think the texture of the brick will make it look good as well. Unfortunately, however, once it dried, as you can see here, the back of the page looked nicer than the front. So I decided to do another layer of gesso. Thought maybe because I'd watered the gesso down, it seeps through the page. So I thought a layer of gesso over the top probably would have been a better idea. So I sprayed the same 3 colours after this gesso had dried, and the colour is better once it's dry, but it's not quite what it was on the back of the page. But you know, we make mistakes and we can deal with them. So this is what the page looks like after the gesso is dried. So I add those sprays and then I'll show you what it looks like once it's dry. So prompt number 4 is to add menu fragments to the page to create interest. So I have this menu that I have in my stash. I don't recall where I got it from, but it's normal card, and I just tore that up to stick onto the page, and I used Mod Podge to stick that down. So the colours in the background obviously look better than they did before. It's just not quite what I expected, but we can work with what we have. So I'll get this stuck down. I didn't put any Mod Podge on top of the menu pieces, which I normally would do. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, but the colour does come up, because they're sprays, it does come up with the glue if you spread it over, so I decided not to. So prompt number 5 is to heat emboss onto acetate to create your focal image. So I've chosen these 2 stamps as my focal images. I decided to go with 2 of them, and I used this embossing powder that I have not yet used, and I just use normal glue ink pad or a glue pad, whatever you want to call it. And once I dried this focal image, I couldn't see it anymore. I thought it would dry a bit more clear so you could see it, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So I decided that I was going to use a different embossing powder to try again. So I decided to go with this antique rust colour that I have, and once that's dried, or heated should I say, I am more happy with the colour, so that's absolutely fine. So I will just crop those down and stick them down onto the page with some washi tape that I have in my stash. Just be careful when you heat embossing on the acetate because it can warp, but it is possible if you hold it in the right place to keep it straight or make it straight again. So prompt number 6 is to add wings to your focal image with any medium. So obviously I've decided that I have 2 focal images, but I'm just going to put it wings on one. I have this stamp set with butterflies and I'm just going to use one butterfly wing, and you can see the butterfly here that I've chosen, and I'm going to use this embossing powder again. So I'm going to stamp it directly onto the page with that glue ink pad again, and it's just the one wing I'm using, so I'll do that and then get that set onto the acetate as well. So that's the wings that I've added. I did just want to add it onto the one focal image because the other one I don't think really would have gone with wings. So obviously if you have some different wings, you could add a sticker or some ephemera to add your wings. You don't have to do what I've done. So prompt number 7 is to add a pearlescent or metallic medium to the page. So I've chosen this gilding polish in Copper Shine from Cosmic Shimmer, and I'm just taking a bit out with my palette knife and spreading it over those menu pieces. And I also will go over the brick because the texture you can't see very well in the background. So I'm just going to use a light layer on my finger just to go over those bricks so that you can see them a bit better. If you wanted to use paint, or you can use pearl gems or whatever you have available to you and what you think goes better with your page, you can use. Don't feel like you have to use the same thing I'm using. So once you're happy with that medium, we can move on to prompt number 8, which is to add a title relating to your wings. So I actually chose the same stamp set that I got my wings from, and I'm just going to use that title there. So I'm going to again attempt to stamp it on the page with that glue because I wanted to use embossing powder again in the same colour as the wings. Mind my head there. And unfortunately that didn't work for me because it didn't stamp directly onto the page like I wanted it to. So I am using a piece of acetate again, and I'm going to use that same embossing powder like I said for the wings and get that heated and stuck on the page again with the same washi tape that I used for the focal images to stick those down as well. So if you wanted to add a title from some ephemera, or you can add a stamp directly onto the page, don't feel like you have to use embossing powder like I have. I decided that this would just make the colours more cohesive just because the wings didn't really match what I'd put on in the background, so we needed something else to just make it more cohesive and fit better with each other. So I'm just going to put the title up at the top there, and then we'll move on to the next prompt. So prompt number 9 is to create a border with the same medium as step 7. So the medium I used again is the Copper Shine gilding polish, and I'm just going to use my finger just to blend that around the edges of the pages. Just put something down to make sure it doesn't go all over the book. So as you can see, I'm literally just taking my finger and spreading it around the page. It's really fortunate that I have the acetate separate because I could just take it off and put it back on again. So you use whatever your medium was for step 7 and then add a border however you wish. So the 10th and final prompt is to again use the same medium or colour to add splashes or dots to the page. So I still have that gilding polish and I'm just watering it down, and I'm going to add splashes to the page. If you've used something that can't be watered down or can't be used for splashes, just add dots like the prompt said. You don't have to try and make splashes, or if you want to use a different medium in the same colour, do that and add your splashes like that if you like. So thank you for joining me today. I would love to see your creations if you do take part in the prompt list. So please do tag me on Instagram with the hashtag #SparklePrompts. I will put the full prompt list at the end of the video as usual. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I will see you next time where we'll turn your creative spark into a creative sparkle. Thanks. Bye.